it's great to watch these guys be able to decide game day. Hey, okay, this game dictates that we play this style of game. We can play that. And we saw them overcome adversity against the Jaguars because people always said, hey, well, I don't know why this is a knock for people. Well, they always play from ahead. Well, duh, that's what you want to do as a football team. You always want to have the lead.
Man, 10:05, right on time. He's hanging out in the virtual green room. It's our good friend, Emory Hunt, the star of the playbook on the Football Playbook. Emory, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Rick. Always a pleasure to be on the show.
Oh, man, I missed you. It's week 8 of the NFL. We had you on in the preseason, and our producer, Tone, wanted to make sure I give you a ribbing for your New Orleans Saints Super Bowl prediction. However, I'm going to give you props because you were on the Jalen Hurts MVP candidacy when it was, I think, 3,000 to 1 odds. And now, last time I checked, Ocean Casino Resorts down there in Atlantic City had him number 2 in the MVP race. So let's start off with a little Philadelphia Eagles football talk. They were on the bye, but I want to ask you or have you explain to our listening audience, we saw the Arizona Cardinals last year. They jumped off to that 7-0 start, and then they kind of faded down the stretch. And the Steelers this week, remember a couple seasons ago, everybody was calling them the worst 11-0 football team of all time. They lost 4 out of 5. They went 1 and done in the playoffs. Explain to our listening audience why this Philadelphia Eagles football team is different.
You got to look at how they are winning. And there are a lot of teams, and it's a great lead into this question, Rick, because there's a lot of teams right now that are, looking to be the same type of story as those Steelers were, as the Cardinals were, where you see them having winning records, but you still kind of like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, yeah, you're 6-1, but come on now, But you can't say that about the Eagles because of how they are winning. When you look at how dominant they are, and I keep bringing this game up because this was just a fascinating watch. When they played Washington down in Washington, you could have sworn the Eagles were up 58-6, the way they dominated that game, but it was only 24-8. That's how good the Eagles are on both sides of the ball. They can really play any type of game you want. They can run the football and beat you to death with their run game. They can beat you to death with the quick passing game because they can pepper those targets around to different playmakers. They have 2 number 1 wide receivers and a legit number 1 tight end. So it's great to watch these guys be able to decide game day. Hey, okay, this game dictates that we play this style of game. We can play that. And we saw them overcome adversity against the Jaguars because people always said, hey, well, I don't know why this is a knock for people. Well, they always play from ahead. Well, duh, that's what you want to do as a football team. You always want to have the lead. There's nothing wrong with that. But so they were down 14 to Jacksonville. Jalen Hurts had the pick 6. This could have been the game where everybody was like, oh, see, this is what happens. Down 14-0 in a torrential downpour, the remnants from the Hurricane Ian, and they come back and dominate that game and win that against Jacksonville. So we've seen them battle through adversity. We've seen them win with their run game. We've seen them win with their passing game. We've seen them win with their defense. This team is different than the Steelers team and the Cardinals team.
And I would add to that, they're built to last in the trenches. I mean, how many teams can afford to see that many injuries along their offensive line? They've had Jordan Mailata has been out. They had the other tackles been out. They've got the guards are all banged up. They lose Derek Barnett for the season. On both offense and defense, they have depth in the trenches. And a lot of teams around the league, if their starting tackles go down, they're done. And, the Eagles have been able to sustain all those injuries.
Well, to your point, I want to jump in right quick. And to the producer, Tone, bringing it up the Saints. Well, you look at what happened with them. Jameis Winston gets hurt. He gets hurt in the week 1 opener against the Falcons. Luckily, he was able to come back in that game and lead them back to a victory. But we saw the remnants of the back injury. Then we see them lose Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Alvin Kamara missed a game or 2. Then they lose Chris Olave for a game. Then you got to go to Andy Dalton, who's out there starting and not very good at all. And it has shown that the Saints don't have the same level of depth. And I think we in the media had overplayed the loss of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who's now starting with the Eagles, Marcus Williams, who unfortunately is out for the season, but with the Ravens. But those were 2 starting safeties. So for me, it shows you how depth is important, understanding the talent within your roster is important, and putting guys in position to win. So even on paper, the Saints still should be in a lot of these games, which they have been. But it shows you the resolve of, let's say, a Philadelphia Eagles team and what they've been able to do with their injuries. Because we don't talk about that enough with Philadelphia. They are suffering through injuries.
Yeah, the Saints have been banged up and have not been able to persevere like the Philadelphia Eagles. But it goes back to an old football saying. I say it often here on the show, Emory. And, the most important position in football is your quarterback. The second most important position in football is your backup quarterback. And, when you got to throw Andy Dalton in there and it becomes Taysom Hill time, I mean, you saw they had to resort back to the backyard playground. They had to resort to Tebow ball, really. And, that's the difference between the stability of the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts, as you alluded to. He's beaten teams with his arm. He's beaten teams with his legs. He's found Devonta Smith for big games. He's found A.J. Brown for big games. He's run the RPO masterfully with Miles Sanders back there. And, I would add, he, along with Josh Allen and surprisingly Jacoby Brissett, probably the most impressive short yardage runners when you get down there, 3rd and short, 4th and short. I mean, this guy is like guaranteed money. With that being said, it was the bye week. I think the Jalen Hurts extension talks had to at least been a topic of conversation during this past week. And everybody talks about, hey, Lamar Jackson's going to reset the market. Hey, Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow are coming up for contracts, and they're going to be, the next $50 million per year quarterbacks. But I don't know. I look at Jalen Hurts. We saw Kirk Cousins in week 2. That's what a $40 million quarterback looks like. We saw Kyler Murray a couple weeks ago. That's what a $46 million quarterback looks like. At what point or how far do the Eagles have to go until it's Jalen Hurts, not Lamar Jackson, resetting the quarterback market? Is that even a possibility, do you think?
It is. And that's why I think what Lamar Jackson is doing is a very shrewd move, because he knows, had I signed this offseason, a lot of these names that you just mentioned are going to reset the market again. So then I would look like I signed a great value contract, when if I just wait until Burrow signs, Hurts signs, Herbert signs, then I can then usurp those guys, because I have the ace in the hole as a former unanimous MVP. So that's why he's probably waiting. But if you're Philadelphia, you might as well lock up Jalen Hurts before the price continues to go up. Because at the end of the day, you look at what he has done juxtaposed to someone that, and I'm bringing his name up because just to be a little bit petty, Rick, there was someone in my mentions that made a whole show about what I said in the summer when I said, man, it's fascinating how the NFL is rushing to crown Justin Herbert when, he has won the same amount of games in the playoffs as Jalen Hurts, or Jalen Hurts has actually been to the playoffs, and we still are waiting for the Chargers under Herbert to get to the playoffs. So why would you not look at Hurts as better than Herbert? And he made a whole show out of that, saying, basically, how could this clown says, he thought I was a Philly beat writer. He said, how could this clown, say Hurts is better than Herbert? Well, here we are now. Hurts is about to win MVP. Find me, get me on your show so I can call you a dumb, you know what?
Face, right? I want to know. I want
on the show.
They're going to pop him up over here.
So, but all jokes aside, man, in all seriousness, you want to pay Hurts because he has the element that you look for in a quarterback. And I always tell you this when we're out there on the road scouting, the toughness, the mental toughness. He is built for Philly. He doesn't shy away from pressure. You watch the Eagles game, you don't know if the Eagles are up 30 or down 30. Hurts is the same way regardless, and you need that at the position. The steady hand is the one that guides the ship, and he has the steadiest of hands in the NFL.
No, I say all the time, it's the intangibles, right? The it factor. What's the it factor? Go look at Jalen Hurts. And Bill Cowher actually said on the pregame show, the way he downplays victories, that's the sign of a leader. He sends the message. And, I think Sirianni said, this guy's just a cucumber, man. He doesn't flap. There's nothing that can fluster this guy. You just can't get inside his head. And there's a lot to be said. I mean, look at Kyler Murray the other day going off on Cliff Kingsbury. Emory, am I wrong by saying the Kyler Murray contract is the starting point for the Jalen Hurts negotiations, correct?
Yeah, whoever signs last is the floor. Everyone brings up Deshaun Watson's contract, but he earned that based off what he was doing to keep that Houston team afloat. But you really start at who just signed, and you look at that contract for Deshaun Watson as the anomaly. But then you look at Kyler Murray, you're like, wait a minute, okay, that's the floor. I'm better than him. I'm more of a dual threat than he is. Kyler Murray is a dual threat, but he doesn't use it a lot to his advantage. And I feel like he plays a steadier game. You know what you're going to get out of Jalen Hurts. We find ourselves even in week 7, week 8, still wondering which Cardinals offense will show up. So you're right. That's the floor for the Jalen Hurts conversation. And with the way this is going, he may end up being MVP of the league, which is going to add probably another $50 million on top of the contract that you probably think he's worth right now.
Yeah, it's just going to continue to go up. And we're talking to Emory Hunt, the star of the playbook, football game plan, CBS Sports, the most versatile football analyst in the business right here, right now. I want to get into some NFC East. I want to get into your power rankings quickly, though. We had Sunday Night Football, the Jersey Shore gunslinger, Kenny Pickett. Listen, Mike Tomlin's teams are always going to be competitive. I know that the Steelers aren't looking like a contender, but give them credit. It takes every team about a quarter to adjust. You can prepare for Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle all you want, but until you get out there on the field with them, I think it takes about a quarter to adjust to that game speed. Now, Pittsburgh held this team scoreless in the second half. They're going to face off against the Eagles this week, but what do you make of the Steelers team led by now the Jersey Shore gunslinger there in Pickett?
If the Steelers secondary is not on the jug machine as we speak all week long, then they're doing things wrong, because they dropped 4 intercepts last night. Could have been a difference. And then Kenny Pickett has to be better at protecting the football. 2 touchdowns, 7 picks in his starts. That's not going to get it done. And you look at a team that he's facing this week in Philadelphia that can turn the ball over at a high clip. Darius Slay catching interceptions. You see Bradbury catching picks. We know about the safety play and how well they drive on the football. Gardner Johnson is someone that can turn the ball over. So it's about him protecting the football, being complimentary on offense. I like how he shows that he can drive the football down the field in terms of the 2-minute offense. But if you're not protecting the football on the back end of how you throw 2 game-losing interceptions in the same game. It was fascinating to watch last night, but he has to be better at protecting the football, and their secondary has to make the plays that are there to be made.
Yeah, the life of a rookie quarterback. And I think the Steelers will be better for it that in the long run, getting these kinks worked out early on. There's nothing that replaces in-game experience. And I think the Trubisky and Pickett is a storyline that'll continue to be going on. But we're talking to Emory Hunt, NFC East now. You cover the New York Giants on the regular. You're around the team on a daily basis. I got to say, Emory, and what is this, 4 years now that Daniel Jones has been in town, and everybody talks about he's got a fiery demeanor. Yeah, believe me, behind closed doors, this guy, he gets after it. I have not seen that on the field or publicly until I saw that him demonstrate that fiery leadership with who was it, Marcus Johnson, who dropped the touchdown, first down, whatever it is. Catch the effing ball, Marcus. So, we haven't seen this from Daniel Jones, and we haven't seen good coaching in the Meadowlands in a long time, and it's resulted in confidence. And it's amazing how you could take the same exact team and just with a little bit of coaching, install some confidence. I heard the Bird Show before us say, they were debating, is it Sirianni, is it Daboll for Coach of the Year? If it was decided today, right? What do they call him? Dabs now? Dabs is the Coach of the Year, no?
Yeah, he really is, man. And there's a lot to unpack with this Giants team. So let's unpack it, right? Number one, you talk about Coach Daboll, fantastic job. And I like what he's doing, because what he's showing you, and this is something that Sean Payton did in New Orleans his first year, it shows you it doesn't take long to turn around an NFL football team, because you have NFL talent. You have access to the best talent coming out of college football. And if you are a coach worth your salt, you can turn things around quickly. We just saw it last year with Ric Serritella, didn't we? So, again, it doesn't take long to turn around an NFL franchise, and Daboll is showing you that. Daboll also understands, this is the second part of the package, he understands how to maximize a player's talents. So as we are all watching these Giants games, and this is the third part that we're unpacking, we know why they are winning. You go out and get Wink Martindale and add a Kayvon Thibodeau to an aggressive defense, and now you're getting after teams. Teams really can't score the ball on you at a high clip, so you're going to always be in games. You're playing great special teams. You can kick with Gano, strong leg, deep leg. Games are always going to be close, and you can trust your kicker to win your game or two. On offense, a healthy, leaner Saquon Barkley has a juice back, and now he's still back to being one of the more explosive, backs in the league. So what can we do about the big elephant in the room? The quarterback is minimize his effectiveness. Daniel Jones is only throwing for 175 yards a game in 2022. He's only throwing the football he's only completing like 14 passes a game. Last week, he had over 200 yards, I think by 5 yards. This past game, he had 200 yards passing. Granted, he had 109 yards rushing, which is huge, true dual threat. But here's the thing. The bar is so low with Daniel Jones that as long as he breaks the huddle, you'll see Giants media and the local media. Daniel Jones, I'm telling you, like, look, pay the man. All right, y'all won't be crazy and give him the super max like Tannehill. Watch what you get on the back end. You see Tennessee is still suffering from buying in on one season where he didn't trip and fall over his face with Ryan Tannehill. Now they're stuck swimming in mediocrity. The Giants have to be wary. And I think Daboll is smart enough to know that. Joe Shane, the GM, is smart enough to know that. But at least Daniel Jones has shown you, if you want to keep him as your QB2, he's fine. He's a stable backup quarterback. He's much better than what we're seeing from Andy Dalton, probably on par with Cooper Rush with a little bit more athleticism, right? So the Giants still need someone that they can trust to throw the football, because thinking forward, you say, okay, if they've been down double digits in the fourth quarter in every game, you can't keep living like that. Now, it shows you that Daboll is living right because they've been winning those games, but you can't keep doing that going forward, because right now you talk about Tebow. I feel like this team is winning games how the Broncos won that year, where they stunk for 3 quarters and then they're pulling a rabbit out of the hat in the fourth. So
quit.
They don't quit. You like that, but that's all of what we're seeing right now from the Giants.
No, I think after a while, the NFL will catch up to the game management of Daniel Jones. Just like Cooper Rush got exposed to the Eagles, the NFL is going to catch up to this. And, a lot of people think Daniel Jones has emerged as this quality starter. No, it's a product of coaching, guys. I've seen every game this guy's played. He's not an NFL starter. Now, with that said, I'd be more than happy to give him like a Marcus Mariota type deal with 2 years, 19 million, whatever the case may be. I am not going to tag him with the franchise tag, which is $31 million. He is not that kind of quarterback. Now, we could probably spend a whole show on that topic, but let me ask you and shift some gears here into Dallas land, because Dak Prescott came back, kicked off some rust there in the first half, it looked like, but Dallas is playing complete football. They got it done once again on special teams, defense. I think 5 turnovers. We saw that throughout the season. They kept it close with the Eagles with Cooper Rush. To me, in the NFC at least, the Cowboys are the second best team I've seen thus far. What do you make of the Cowgirls? And, we'll throw in the Commanders also winning yesterday as well, because we got to keep it moving here.
Yeah, keep the Commanders out of the conversation. They're struggling, man. They're struggling. Hopefully they get Chase Young back at some point in time.
It goes to tell you what we think about the Packers then.
Right, exactly. Because if the turning point in that game is when they called back the fumble recovery, I believe, for a touchdown. So Heineke is playing capable football. But to your point about the Cowboys, it takes something to happen for people to learn. And I feel like their offensive coordinator learned a lot without Dak Prescott. Hey, let's run the football, play complementary offense with the passing game. You add a better quarterback in Dak Prescott, keep the same formula, and now you're playing great team football like the New York Giants is playing, but with a better upgrade at quarterback in Dak Prescott. So I think that's going to be the plan moving forward. And to your point, it makes them that much dangerous in the NFC playoff picture.
All right, let's talk about Emory Hunt's power rankings. I think we can all agree, Bills, Chiefs, Eagles, I think are the top 3 teams in the NFL. You tell me if you see it differently, but I wanted to kind of pick your brain and get, who to me, like somebody in the chat room put the Vikings in. To me, they're frauds. Those are guys that, like, they look like a contender, but they're really a pretender. And then on the flip side, I don't know, you got a team maybe that's lurking in the weeds. Give us a team that's playing above their head, and give us a team that we still have to maybe keep a lookout for.
All right, so Eagles, Bills, Chiefs are my 1, 2, and 3 power rankings. 4 and
Nice.
5 are interesting because it's the Cowboys, and you got it. As much as I talked about a lot to unpack, the Giants at 5 because they're winning games with run game, defense, solid special teams play. They are the more consistent of the rest. I feel like the rest of the NFL is at 4 and 4, 3 and 3. Whole NFL is average right now, and you're looking at the Giants. But if you're looking at a team that people probably feel is a pretender, that's a serious contender, how about the New York Jets? Their defense is right there with the Giants, probably on par, to be completely fair and honest, with Philadelphia. But the problem is, and this is why you can't really talk ball with fans sometimes, because they can't see the forest from the trees. Zach Wilson is holding their offense back. They can't throw the football. It's worse than the Giants. Daniel Jones is playing lights out better than Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson right now is the hindrance to the offense, and you hate the fact that Breece Hall took an injury last game, and now you weaken what was a potent 1-2 punch running the football. They got great receivers. They got better receivers than the Giants. They may have the second best, or that AFC East receiving core is fantastic from top to bottom outside of the Patriots. So if they can't figure out Zach Wilson's ability, and Zach Wilson can't step up and become an asset, they're going to have to Mark Sanchez their way through this schedule. It's possible, but that's a team that scares you because they could play great defense. And a contender right now that's probably a pretender is not the Giants, it's the Minnesota Vikings. I feel like the Vikings are getting the pass here this season. They're 5-1, but no one really respects their 5-1 because of who controls the sticks in Kirk Cousins. I feel like people are just waiting for Kirk Cousins to happen. I trust the Giants defense more than I trust the Vikings defense. I trust the Giants run game collectively more than I trust the Vikings run game, even though they both have elite backs. And to be completely fair, I got to trust Daniel Jones's ball security more so than Kirk Cousins' ball security. I like the Giants over the Vikings. I think the Vikings are the pretender in this scenario.
Hey, talking to the czar of the playbook on the football playbook, Emory Hunt. You just heard it. 3 out of the 4 NFC East teams are in his power rankings. That tells me there's going to be 3 teams in the NFC East that make the playoffs. Don't look right now, Emory. After the Patriots take care of business tonight, I think every team in the AFC East will also be above 500. The East of the Beast, they're balling out here on the East Coast, man. It's been a long time coming, too. All right, let's see. I know we got to wrap this up soon, but I got to give you props for, you might be the only believer in the media that thought Geno Smith could be a starting NFL caliber quarterback. And he has, what I've seen from the Seahawks has been unbelievable. This looks like somebody reborn again. And you think about, when we all kind of said, what's going on? Ben McAdoo, you're benching Eli Manning for Geno Smith, and what's going on? And then, he spent a year behind Phillip Rivers, and then, he spent a year or two behind Russell Wilson, and something tells me he learned a thing or two from those guys. I mean, this guy, you could throw him in the MVP race, can't you?
He's legitimately in the MVP race, and it's fun to watch that Seahawks offense, because when the trade was initially made, I'm like, wait, all he gave up was essentially Russell Wilson. They got back Noah Fant. They got back, they get to keep DK Metcalf and also Tyler Lockett. Like, man, the Seahawks didn't lose much in this trade because Geno can play. And I'm glad he's experiencing this, because we all know there's a fine line between running someone off and giving someone an opportunity. His best opportunity, we saw him close out his final season with the Jets, right? The last 4 games before he was injured the following year, with the teammate scuffle, the last 4 games, Geno was playing lights out, and he culminated that with a great game against the Dolphins in Miami with Eric Decker catching like 3 or 4 touchdown passes. So the following year, they beefed up the receiving core, so everyone was going in like, hey, Geno's about to take this next step. He's about to get back to what we saw his rookie year when he went 8-8. They put a better team around him. He gets injured. Fitzpatrick takes over, goes to the final game of the season, and throws 3 of the worst interceptions you can throw in that game that they needed to win to get into the playoffs. Had that been Geno given that opportunity, who knows, right? So he had to sit and stew on that since then. And we saw the Giants situation. I was out there all training camp that year. He was the best quarterback on the Giants roster, but obviously Eli wasn't going to get benched, but he beat out Davis Webb. He beat out Josh Johnson, and McAdoo was going to let him be the bridge quarterback, and they had the right idea. The fans and Giant beat media had the backlash, so they had to, backtrack, put Eli back in. But there was a 4-game stretch where they didn't score 20 points, right? And as soon as Geno gets in, they scored 24 points. So they hadn't scored 20 in a month. He gets in, plays well, but they lose to the Raiders anyway. And so he had to stew on this all throughout his career. He's now taking advantage of those opportunities. I'm happy for him because he's looking like the Geno Smith that we saw at West Virginia, where he put up video game numbers his senior season.
Hard to believe it was about a decade ago.
Right.
Right. And I can't think of a better quarterback story, outside of Kurt Warner, but I'd have to go back to like Tommy Maddox or Rich Gannon to think of a quarterback that reincarnated themselves this late in their career. Unbelievable. The first place Seahawks riding high. Oh, by the way, Kenneth Walker, what did he run for? $168 here yesterday? I have in my notes. So
yep.
DK Metcalf, we'll see, holding our breath there. But you could just never predict the NFL. Emory, we got to let you boogie, but man, I got to ask you because you also do the play-by-play over at Monmouth. What was it, a 7 overtime? This Monmouth keeps playing these overtime thrillers, and they got a running back there, man, that reminds me of Joe Mars.
Listen, I always do. I do color commentary on the weekend for those that are listening. This week I'll be at Morgan State doing the South Carolina State game. But yeah, I was at Monmouth versus Rhode Island, and their running back Jaden Sheridan to me is the next Warwick Dunn. Dude is phenomenal. But those 7 overtimes, man, it's funny because in college, after the 3rd overtime is now all 2-point conversions. So I'm sitting there wondering, like, man, how many 2-point plays do you have in your playbook? Because at the end of the day, you don't plan to use 7 of them, right? You're gonna run out of plays. But it was back and forth. The game I did with Monmouth and Fordham earlier in the year was a 52-49 ball game where Jaden Sheridan was the 3rd string back, and he had 12 carries for 299 yards rushing. It was averaging 25 yards a carry. So it's fun to watch Monmouth play. I know the coaches hate watching these high-scoring games because of the defense that just gives up big play after big play. But yeah, it's been fun, man. So, and again, people that were in Philly got to see that game on NBC Sports Philly. So they got to see the Zarda playbook in his full bloom. So this week, ESPN Plus, catch me at 1 p.m. Eastern time, Morgan State, South Carolina State. I'll be the color analyst on that game as well.
No doubt. He's always breaking it down, chopping it up when it comes to the NFL, college football, FCS, and even the Ivy League. I got to sneak in a little Penn football here. What went down this past weekend?
Penn is undefeated, playing some of the best ball they've played since they had Justin Watson there. I know Coach Priori does a great job of developing talent. Glad he's gotten back on the winning side of things. They had a down year last year, but they have a great offense, great defense. Their passing game is what makes them special. They're going to have to get through Princeton, though. Princeton's team defense, Steve Verbit, has been there for 37 years as a defensive coordinator. Their defense gives up about 5.5 yards a pass, 2 yards a carry. They only give up 9 points a game. So if Penn is going to win the Ivy this year, it's going to have to go through Princeton.
Yeah, it's funny. The city of Philadelphia is on fire right now. It even extends down to the Ivy League. And I got to say, for those of you who have not experienced Franklin Field, arguably one of my favorite venues to visit in the whole world. So, hey, Emory, man, I can't believe 30 minutes just flew by talking football, but that's what we do here at the Football Playbook. We'll circle back down the line, this winding road of the NFL, maybe when the Eagles and Cowboys link up. Always appreciate the time, my man.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right.